Hey, what's going on, everybody? So it looks like the first tag team tournament video did, for me, pretty well. And since I've been in this video making binge, I figured, you know what, I might as well keep the pattern going and keep this stretch of, posting videos every day going for as long as I possibly can. I know at some point that pattern's going to end, and I'm probably going to go several days without posting anything, but you know what? While the good is going, I might as well keep it going for as long, or stretch it out for as long as I possibly can. So I am going to make another video today. In fact, I've just made a what happened or what's up with video. So once I'm done with this video, I'm going to finally get into the thumb wrestlers video, and I don't know, maybe I'll come back and make another tournament video. Who knows? Again, I feel pretty good right now, so I want to try and make as many of these videos as I possibly can and have them in queue and ready to go when the time comes. So, these videos usually go about 30 plus minutes, so don't want to talk too much in the beginning, and I just like to dive right into the video topic at hand. So, per usual, I like to pick these names at random, pause the video, and pull the figures off the shelves. And then, let's see, Killer Bees. That's going to be the original LJN Killer Bees. They will do battle with the original Heart Foundation. Alright, cool. Next matchup is going to feature the Bushwhackers squaring off against the Mega Powers. Alright. That right there should be a really fun one. The Legion of Doom. Yes, I know Legion of Doom was eliminated last video, but, again, I do have multiple copies of a lot of these tag teams, so just because one of your tag teams may have been eliminated doesn't necessarily mean that they're gone for good. So Legion of Doom will do battle against Strike Force. Again, that's going to be the original LJN release of Strike Force. And since we're only doing 4 matches per video, let's see. Okay, this is the Powers of Pain Custom by Wrestling Rider. And he's going to do battle, or they were going to do battle against the Steiner Brothers. Alright, awesome. I'm going to pause the video, and in a split second, you will see me return with those matches. Alright, everybody. We do got the matches, or the figures pulled. So, first matchup we pulled, and I kind of have an idea of where I'm going to go with this first initial match. It's going to feature the Heart Foundation versus the Killer Bees. And it's going to be original on original here. And I think it's pretty evident as far as, well, let me say this before I get to that point. So, I've already talked about in the last video, you have 2 phenomenal figures, 2 absolutely elite figures. Not really much I can talk about in this video that I haven't already said in the first video. If it really comes down to the point, Heart Foundation or Killer Bees, 10 times out of 10, absolutely 100% the Heart Foundation. I would choose Heart Foundation. I would choose them over nostalgia. I would choose them over their action figures. I would choose them over the playability, their colors, which I like a whole lot better. I would choose them because of their wrestling techniques. As fan favorites, just pretty much everything you could possibly imagine. I don't have any history, unfortunately, with the Killer Bees. I know of the tag team name. I know of them. Unfortunately, I didn't really know of these characters themselves until I actually started with LJN. So everything that, that makes me, lead to, hey, what would I say, or why would I want to pick the Killer Bees as my favorite tag team? The Heart Foundation has that. I have nothing more to add that could possibly lead me to choose the Killer Bees over the Heart Foundation. But that's exactly what I'm going to do. I am going to select Killer Bees over the Heart Foundation. I'm going to make this a very quick and simple selection. Now, right off the bat, why am I choosing the or why am I choosing the Killer Bees over the Hearts? It's simply put, I already know, based on the custom figures that have pushed forward in the first video, that if at some point, if these Heart Foundation figures squared off against those customs, I know I wouldn't select these originals to beat the customs. I already know it. It's just no doubt in my mind. So I just don't see a point where I would actually be able to push have multiple Heart Foundation figures pass forward and not at least give the opportunity for the Killer Bees. Have viewers out there who grew up watching the Killer Bees, who are fans of the Killer Bees, who would love to see this tandem progress further. Regardless of whether or not they win is irrelevant. I've said it many times in my past tournaments with both the LJN, my favorite Hasbro and my favorite LJN tournaments. It doesn't matter if a particular figure is going to win or not. Just the opportunity to talk about that figure over the course of multiple videos and see them progress further and further, that right there is just so important. And I feel the same way about these figures. They are fantastic figures. Jim Brunzell is an amazing piece. Not quite on my top 20 list, but this is definitely a top 30 figure. Probably in the top 22 or top 23 if I had to say, right off the top of my head, if I had to give a number. And B. Brian Blair, he's not that much further back. Again, I feel like this is another top 30 figure. If not in the top 30, top 35 maybe. Both fantastic pieces. I talked about Bob Backlund from Ram Treasures. Terrible Bob Backlund figure with this pose, but for B. Brian Blair with LJN, it works. It's beautiful for this figure. And these are great figures nonetheless. Better than Heart Foundation? Maybe not. Definitely deserving of a second round run. And it would have been heartbreaking to lose these guys so early, especially considering that Heart Foundation already has figures in the second round. So, hopefully you guys agree with my explanation. And I'm glad to see the Killer Bees in another round. The next matchup is going to feature the Mega Powers squaring off against the Bushwhackers. So, the figures I selected, I believe both of these figures came from Stinger GQ off of eBay. Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. And what are they without manager Elizabeth in their corner? Is she really part of this competition? No. I just thought it was really awesome to add her figure as well. It's just a fun figure. Really great. In fact, during the last My Favorite LJN tournament, I think she made it to round 3 if I'm not mistaken. And in the first tournament, I didn't have a custom. I just had the original. And she was wiped out in the first round. And to see this one, I think make it to round 3 or round 4. I think it was a round 3 elimination. And, she went off against Kamala, so no chance for progression. But, man, I mean, what a competitor just to get eliminated by. Otherwise, she could have been a round 4, competitor. Quite possibly the greatest tag team of all time. You hear in shoot videos, these guys talk about, and not just the Hulk Hogan and Savage, but other wrestlers who are in the locker room with them all the time, that their feud, sometimes they'll talk about, well, obviously not recent videos, I've watched past interviews and stuff, and they're talking about, being best friends and everything, but in the same breath, talk about, what they disliked about each other. So it's like, well, what is it? Are you guys best friends or do you hate each other? So it was really, frustrating because these are like two of my all-time favorite wrestlers. I put Savage just behind Ultimate Warrior among, my favorite all-time all-time wrestler, and these two guys together could have toppled the world. Absolutely incredible. When you think of tag team powerhouses, I mean, for me, like Legion of Doom was always like that tag team, but I mean, I guess maybe the Natural Disasters would have been like a great combination as well. Uh, Demolition, I always felt like Demolition made a really great tag team, really powerful tag team. Um, Money Inc. maybe. I mean, they were good, but I think IRS. Well, no, I think he had a lot of talent himself, but I really felt like Ted DiBiase was like really the main crew member of that group. I really loved Nasty Boys, so that was a really powerful group to me. I guess kind of Razor Ramon and Ric Flair. I mean, an odd pairing, but I mean they were tag team champions together. So, but they were both superstars. So, but either way, I mean these guys, incredible. I just think that they aren't your legitimate tag team force. They are just your individual wrestler type guys. I think that's how I will always view them. That's why in this tournament, it's really going to be hard for me to picture them anything other than as singles wrestlers. And as much of a powerhouse as they could be, I just don't think I would have the ability in me to push them any further in the competition. But I mean, we'll see. They are the best of the best. I mean, I know I throw that around a lot, but do I have the power in me to eliminate them? That's the question. In this round, they will square off against the Bushwhackers. So, Butch and Luke of the Bushwhackers. You remember when they come down the aisle, they do the little arm thing with, and they'd come up to the fans, start licking their face. And I'm like, man, could you imagine in today's COVID world spreading their germs like that? I mean, somebody today would scream sexual assault. But could you imagine that them doing that, in the 90s and in today's environment? These figures themselves, obviously the rubber of the figures from Rand Treasures is not good. I mean, when you compare it to actual LJN figures, obvious difference. But I mean, the paint job, the folks over there, they do amazing work with the paint job, and I got to give them credit for that. The camel pants is absolutely amazing. For display figures, perfect. If you're sitting there and you're wanting to actually wrestle these, if you're a parent and you want to give these to your kids and you want to play them, or hell, people ask me all the time, hey, you have all these figures, do you ever wrestle them? I watch all these other content makers, make their wrestling videos, and I'm jealous as heck of them. I'm like, you know what, you guys look like you're having so much fun. Hell yeah, I want to wrestle them, but a lot of these figures, I think because they're intended for adults for display purposes, they're designed for display purposes, and so they don't really give them these fighting techniques or fighting poses, and it drives me nuts. These are for fighting abilities. This is horrible. I don't, as far as that in that category, I would say that these are absolutely despicable figures. Bushwhackers, I finally got the 1989 Royal Rumble tape in a few weeks ago, and I was finally able to watch that VHS. And so I don't have 88. I don't think I'll ever, because it wasn't a main event, I don't think I'll ever be able to find a 1988 home video, Coliseum video of the 88 Rumble. So I have 89, and I think I have all of 1990. I might be missing 2 years of the 1990s Royal Rumbles. And I think I have 2000 through 2002 or something. And watching these guys enter the Royal Rumble in like the '89 Rumble, they actually did pretty well. Like they were in there for a significant amount of time, and I'm like, wait, what's going on here? Because every time I watch them, like, let's say Butch comes in, you know, wrestler would grab him, he would walk him to the other side of the ring, throw him over the ropes. He's in there for like 2.5 seconds, or like Luke would come in, punch him, bam, he goes over the ropes, half a second, like. I hate that. I absolutely despise Royal Rumbles that do that. I think if a wrestler is in a Royal Rumble for less than 10 minutes, it is an absolute waste of a roster spot. It is not enjoyable, and it just makes for a boring competition. I used to love these guys as a kid, as an adult, just going back and watching those. It was extremely boring, and I've actually lost a lot of respect and a lot of fun that I used to have for these guys. Pretty decent figures, but no. Maybe if they had an opportunity to go up against someone else, they could have progressed, but come on. You never in a million years could put the Bushwhackers over the dynamic duo that are the Mega Powers. That's just crazy. Yes, of course the Mega Powers are going to round 2. Come on, are you guys really that scared thinking I was going to eliminate these guys in round 1? No way. Mega Powers joins the Killer Bees round 2. Next one features... first things first, what was this? Mega Powers Bushwhackers, that put them off. This one was Strike Force going up against Legion of Doom. So the Strike Force customs by Robert Jackson were deleted in the first video. So can Strike Force originals hang on to and have some kind of version make it to round 2 as they square off against the Legion of Doom figures from Random Treasures. So custom Legion of Doom figures were defeated in the first video, as were custom figures from the Strike Force. So both copies, this already gave both of these tag teams 2 copies in this tournament, so gives them 2 different opportunities to win. I mean, heck, look at the Hart Foundation. It's only 2 videos in, and they've already had 3 opportunities to advance to a round 2. I mean, 2 of their copies have already been eliminated, which is sad to see, but I mean, they only have to have 1 copy win. It's my favorite tag team, not my favorite tag team. So, based on playability, I have to go with the Rick Martel and Tito's tag team. I've already said it in the last video. The Rick Martel, and this tag team kind of matches up with like Doom. I kind of feel the same way. I said it in the previous video that Butch Reed alone was better than his partner and the opponents all combined based on fighting playability. Rick Martel is better than the Tito Santana and the Legion of Doom figures combined. This is a fantastic figure for play. Looks great. Absolutely deserves to move on to a round 2. Strike Force, I don't remember Man, I really got to turn off AOO when I do my videos. It drives me nuts every time I do my videos. That darn thing goes off. Lost my train of thought. Oh, I don't remember Strike Force as a kid. Obviously, both Tito Santana as a single in his singles run, Rick Martel or the model Rick Martel, know him very well. So obviously, I know this guy as a bad guy much more than the good guy Strike Force member. Tito Santana, as much as I am not a fan of this figure, if you wanted to go off the animal figure or, Tito Santana, at least this is a little bit more playable than what you can do with this. You can't do anything with the animal figure. I mean, this right here, you got to pretend to do, like a power slam or something. They're both unplayable figures. They're both terrible as far as playability goes. At least for design purposes, the folks at Ram Treasures, they did a good job with the paint job and whatnot. And in the last video I mentioned how the design overall was very similar. They just, the graphic wise, they just reduced it in size. But I want to push Strike Force forward. I really do. But Legion of Doom, for pretty much my whole life, has always been like my go-to, tag team. I've always said they've been like that brute force, that powerhouse tag team. And they always seemed like a legitimate, they were like a legitimate tag team. Not just throwing like random people together. Like, imagine putting someone like putting Owen Hart and Coco Beware together. That to me never felt natural. Their fighting styles, just the feel of them together just didn't work well to me. Or imagine putting, I don't know, like seeing Hulk Hogan tag team with like Ricky Steamboat. That to me, again, it just didn't feel natural. To me, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, that right there, it feels like a natural teaming of two mega superstars. These guys always seem to work so well together. They just seem to just work so well in tandem. I have to push Legion of Doom. I can't eliminate two Legion of Doom tag teams in one round. Strike Force might be gone for the entire tournament, getting rid of two of their copies in one round, but this was tough. But these guys, they have to. I've said it before, it's not just about my feelings about the actual tag team. The figures themselves, that's what it all boils down to. This is still a figure tournament as much as my favorite, tag team tournament, but everything has to play a role. And, tag team, again, that still has to have a major impact into my decision. So, yes, Legion of Doom from Ram Treasures is pushing forward into round 2. And the very last matchup for the video is going to feature the custom Powers of Pain by Wrestling Rider. And they're going to square off against the Steiner brothers. So, this is one of the very first, in fact, it might actually be the first customs I ever purchased, if I'm not mistaken. If not, nope, you know what, I take it back. I think from Andrew Sabo over at Move Over Swanson on eBay. I think the Series 1 Hulk Hogan with the white painted chest, I think that was the very first custom figure I ever purchased. So, but from Eric Boyer, Wrestling Writer, I think these were the first customs I ever purchased. Or at least it was in the first lot of figures I purchased from him that were customs. So, these are the custom Powers of Pain, and they are squaring off against the Steiner, or the custom Steiner brothers. So we will start off with Eric's figures. Still great figures in my eyes, but seeing so many of his other work, I mean, they've actually fallen so far down my list among my favorites. That just shows you just how immaculate his work is. That, these are pretty awesome figures, but compared to some of his others, they're bottom tier figures among his best, among his work. I like the Warlord, obviously the best. They just simply take a Paul Orndorff. He's got a Rick Rude figure like this I bought from him. Obviously, it works a whole lot better because, Rick Rude is a lot more ripped than you think of Warlord. But with the head mold and everything, with the face paint, incredible. Everything else about this figure is super awesome. Really love the figure. You know, Paul Orndorff, adequate pose, not the best, still a serviceable figure. And at a time when there were no Barbarian figures out there, you know, it was so great to finally get one. The only downside about this figure was, you guessed it, the Jesse Ventura fighting pose. And this is what I always talk about. The only thing that is serviceable about this pose is the ability to hold your championship belts. That is the only thing that this pose is good for. The face and everything, not the best. I mean, I like the Bram Treasures version better, but I mean, this is still a solid figure for Barbarian and for the Powers of Pain. So again, Ram Treasures also has their copy of Powers of Pain in this tournament, and the Steiner brothers. So I'm trying to think which one I wanted more. I think I wanted the Scott Steiner more, or I think I wanted the Rick Steiner figure more. And even though he's got this dumb Iron Sheik pose, because he's got the singlet. But I mean, both these figures are based on the Hasbro Series 9, look to it. So that right there in of itself is really awesome. And the headpiece, it's built on there, as is the singlet and everything. Same thing with the singlet here. Everything's built on. Ted Arcidi. And everything about the hair, it's always smooth, whatnot. Steiner Brothers, actually used to watch them in WCW. WWF was always my thing, but again, every now and then you'd flip through the channels and you'd watch WCW, and there would always be strap matches with like Sting and Vader. But occasionally, you'd see other things. You'd see Sting versus Ric Flair. You'd see the Legion of Doom taking on the Nasty Boys. You'd see the Steiner Brothers and the Nasty Boys. It always seemed like those particular characters were always the ones that were front and center. It's like I never really saw anyone else. So obviously, these particular characters were always ones I always considered WCW. When all those characters, minus Sting, I don't think Sting ever migrated to WWF ever. But when everyone else came to WWF, I always considered them to be WCW wrestlers. No matter how long they spend WWF, to me they'll always be WCW related. And of course, I had Steiner Brother figures for Galoob and early childhood for play and whatnot. So for more nostalgic reasons, and actually growing up and watching the Steiner Brothers wrestle, and the whole singlet thing with what I always talk about, kind of like high school type style wrestling, what I classify as kind of like real wrestling and not like your staged acting type wrestling. I really like these figures. They're among my favorite among this particular seller. It's really hard for me to pass up any type of Wrestling Rider figures, but I love the Steiner Brothers. I really enjoy these particular figures, these characters. So absolutely, I have to push the Steiner Brothers past Powers of Pain. I think this one was a fair assessment. I mean, it's an easy choice, I think. Steiner Brothers just mean too much in this case. So, Steiner Brothers, Powers of Pain, the Killer Bees, and Legion of Doom. We'll move on to round 2. And I will hopefully be able to make another video today because, again, I love making these tournament videos. It's always so much fun. So, thank you for watching, everybody. Leave a comment if you'd like. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks, everyone.